What is up, Mouse Fam? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at a park that has potentially the highest hitting attraction lineup of any domestic Disney park. We're going to be ranking every attraction at Hollywood Studios, a park with the two newest lands at Walt Disney World. So join me as we rank all 13 attractions at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Let's jump into it. A little while back, we ranked all 9 attractions at Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park, link right above. And just like in that ranking, we're going to be following the same parameters for this ranking. That means no walkthroughs and no live entertainment. So if a show or nighttime parade contains any live entertainment, that will not be included on our list. This is just going to be attractions that have a wait time and are listed on the official Disney World app. With that being said, let's jump into the list. Coming in last place at number 13 is Vacation Fun, a Mickey and Minnie animated short. Now this is the animated short that runs at the theater right across from Star Tours. This is right now featuring the new school Mickey and Minnie shorts. It's been running there for about 2 to 3 years. It's about a 10-minute film clip featuring animated shorts, Mickey and Minnie going on a vacation. And it's in this same animation style that they use on Disney Channel and Disney Plus. Now the reason that this comes in last, this is probably the only attraction on our list that I would rank as a bad attraction. I'm just not personally a fan of these new animation styles. I don't mind the animation itself, but I don't like how mischievous it becomes. It's kind of like that slam bang comedy that I just don't really find funny. It's used in a lot of animation these days. I just don't personally like it. If you like it, that's great. But even taking that aside, I just don't think this really fits in Hollywood Studios. It's more of a filler attraction to just fill the day. It doesn't have a really good queue. The theater itself is kind of small. I usually don't like to nitpick filler attractions. Every park needs attractions to just eat up guests, but I don't think this one's very good. From the animation style to just the theater itself, it's just kind of bland, and so for that, it comes in last place. Now, every other entry on this list I would say is a good attraction. I think the only bad attraction at Hollywood Studios is number 13. So with that being said, coming in at number 12, Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy. When I first saw this show, I actually loved it. Cars is one of my favorite Pixar movies ever made. Shout out to Lightning McQueen up there. And I'm also obsessed with that animatronic. I think the Lightning McQueen animatronic in that show is honestly incredible, but it seems like the Imagineers spent most of the budget they were given on that animatronic. The rest of the show itself is just kind of bland. The theater is probably the worst part about it. It's really uncomfortable. It's cool that they added that theater and it does have good theming, but it's just not comfortable to sit in. Even if you get the front row, it's not great. The show can be a little boring, especially on your second and third visits once the awe of that animatronic is kind of worn off. So outside of the groundbreaking animatronic, the show doesn't have a lot going for it. Obviously, it's geared towards kids, and so in that regard, it's great. Just like the last entry on this list, it is a filler attraction, so it really eats up a lot of guests. But it's located at the back end of Hollywood Boulevard behind Rock and Roller Coaster. It just doesn't fit there thematically. It's not a great theater. It's an okay show, but it probably should be a lot better. Coming in at number 11, Alien Swirling Saucers. This is an attraction that I honestly feel like Hollywood Studios really needed, so it does hurt for me to put this lower on the list. But unfortunately, I think they misfired on a couple areas here. Now, the best thing going for Alien Swirling Saucers is it's a kid attraction with a very low height requirement in a park that does not have a lot of family attractions. Most Disney theme parks need those spinner ride, the Dumbo type rides to fill the whole attraction lineup at the park, and Hollywood Studios doesn't really have that. Most of the entries on this list are hard-hitting, great attractions. Alien Swirling Saucers is one of the only family-style attractions. The park really needed it, but unfortunately, it just needs some TLC. It doesn't look great. It's worn down in the sun. You can see it as you exit Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which is just really weird. It does have a cool Buzz figure at the start, and the songs are okay, but I do think this is a worse version of an already better attraction at DCA. So for that reason, it does come pretty low on the list. Coming in at number 10 is an attraction that I wanted to put way higher on the list, Walt Disney Presents. This is the show that plays at the end of One Man's Dream, which is the walkthrough exhibit right outside, right to the right of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. This show is spectacular. I feel like a lot of guests don't know that this exists, even regulars, and if you don't, you really should take some time to watch this show. This is one of the only shows that's ever brought me pretty close to tears at a Disney park. The one thing going against it is a pretty small theater, So if you do go on a busy day, it can take a while to get in, especially if you don't get in right away. It also doesn't have a whole lot of rewritability because it is the same show. So once you've seen it a couple times, you might not want to go back. But besides those two cons, this is a show that I'm extremely happy exists inside Hollywood Studios. It's a great tribute overall to Walt, and there aren't a lot of great Walt tributes in Walt Disney World in general. So this is definitely one of the better ones of those. As far as tributes to Walt go, at a property that doesn't have a whole lot of them, this is about as good as it gets. I'm extremely happy Walt Disney Presents exists, but it's not a show you're going to want to do every single time. Coming in at number 9, Star Tours: The Adventure Continues. This is probably a pretty polarizing attraction for Disney fandom. I know a lot of people absolutely love Star Tours on both coasts, and a lot of people hate it and can't ride it at all. For me, I fall in the middle. I do see both camps. As far as the cons go, it definitely does give you motion sickness. I don't get motion sickness, but my wife does, and I know a lot of other people do. So for that reason, it doesn't have very high rideability. Obviously, it's an older ride system that doesn't really have the parts to keep up the TLC, so it can get a bit bumpy at times, and that's not always the most enjoyable. And obviously, with Galaxy's Edge existing right down the way, this doesn't really fit that great. It does fit better here than at Disneyland, and so that's bonus points for it. But it's probably coming near its last days as an attraction. My guess is within the next 5 years or so, they will retheme this ride. But for the pros, the queue is one of the best queues on property. The Star Tours queue at Disneyland is top notch. The Star Tours queue here at Hollywood Studios is one of the best on property. A lot of the time, my wife and I will ride that ride just to go through the queue. It really is that fantastic. It also fits really well in that area. So in that regard, I do think Star Tours scores high as an attraction, but it does have a lot of cons going for it, unfortunately. Coming in at number 8, Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run. I'm sure a lot of fans are going to be upset about this ranking. This was tough for me because I do see a lot of reasons where it could be higher. But honestly, I don't think Smugglers Run is that good of an attraction. I think the Imagineers have built a ride system and a queue to make this one of the best attractions on property, but I think the ride itself is extremely subpar. After you've ridden it the first time, it just doesn't have the re-rideability that I think Imagineers thought they would have. If you're not Pilot, it's really not that enjoyable. Even if you are Pilot, some people get motion sick. It's just the same video and the same mission over and over and over. If or when Millennium Falcon can add more missions or different missions, it's going to bump this ride up a lot because of how great the queue is, because of how iconic the fact that you're stepping into the Millennium Falcon cockpit is. But the missions are just so bad, it knocks the ride down. I usually don't even want to ride this ride unless it's a walk-on, except for how great the queue is. That's what brings us back. So until Smugglers Run gets an update, it's still pretty low on the list right now. Coming in at number 7. Now for me, these top 7 are all must-do attractions every single time I go to Hollywood Studios. I think all of these are B+ or higher attractions, but one of them does have to come in last. So coming in at number 7 is Muppet Vision 3D. Muppet Vision 3D is one of the last remaining attractions from the original MGM studios that opened at Walt Disney World. So for that reason, it does have a lot of history and nostalgia. I personally just love this show. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's energetic. I'm a big fan of 4D effects and doing things to subvert the expectations of the fans, and this ride has so much of it, and that's what's so great. Obviously, it's a little dated. It could use some TLC, and the biggest thing is Muppets just aren't a huge draw for the average fan right now, and that is what's holding this attraction back. But I hope that this is an attraction they never get rid of. I think all theme parks need a quirky, fun show like this. I'm extremely happy it exists. For me, this is one of the best shows on Walt Disney World property. The animatronics are great. The 4D effects, like I said, are really great. Unfortunately, the Muppets are just not the draw they used to be. But this is still a great show. Coming in at number 6, Rock and Roller Coaster featuring Aerosmith. If we're going off just straight thrill and enjoyment, this probably would come in a lot higher. But trying to be objective about it, it's an extremely short ride system, and the on-ride experience outside of the thrill and the music is pretty disappointing. Those 3D flats that they have, it's just not Disney. I think it could have more on-ride experience going for it, but besides that, it's still a great roller coaster. It does have amazing thrill. It does have that awesome soundtrack that you get, although I wish the soundtrack was piped up a little higher. It has a really great queue, a top-notch pre-show. Unfortunately, the outdoor queue is not great. They kind of just have those switchbacks going on outside, so that could be improved. But overall, this is a great coaster with great theming in a great area. Just like the Muppets, I don't know what the Aerosmith draw is among guests these days. I don't think it's that high. But any roller coaster is still going to be a big draw. So for that reason, this still is a great attraction and one of the best roller coasters on property. It just needs to step up its game a little bit more in terms of on-ride theming and length. All right, that brings us to our top 5. Coming in at number 5, Slinky Dog Dash. Subjectively, I actually don't like this ride that much during the day. I think it's not worth the hour-plus waits that it gets, and it's just not that pretty during the day. But objectively speaking, I think it's a great ride, and I personally love riding this ride at night. I think it makes it a lot better if you can ride it at night, especially if you have less of a wait. The reason why this ride is so high, in my opinion, objectively, is because its rideability is so high. Every single member of the family can go on it. There are not a lot of kiddie coasters that exist outside of Magic Kingdom. Slinky Dog Dash is one of the best, if not the best. It also has a great outdoor queue. The theming's really cute and immersive. It's great to look at. The on-ride experience has a lot of different references going for it, especially if you're a fan of the Toy Story franchise. So that's really great because you get a lot of added experience outside of the coaster itself. I think this is a great coaster. It's obviously not as good as it could have been. It did receive some budget cuts when Toy Story Land opened. It was going to be a lot longer, so that does stink. But this is still a really good coaster that's great for the whole family. Coming in at number 4, Toy Story Mania. I flip-flopped a lot on Slinky Dog Dash and Toy Story Mania. You could ask me on a different day and I might have them flipped. But I think Toy Story Mania has so much going for it. Similar to Alien Swirling Saucers and Slinky Dog Dash, it's great for the whole family. It has a very low height requirement, which makes it perfect for kids. It's extremely interactive. I'm super competitive, so maybe I'm biased, but I love going on this ride over and over and over just to try and beat my wife or beat my friends or score a higher score. But besides that competitive factor, there's so many Easter eggs to look at. Even outside of the game screens themselves, there's so many practical effects that you can look at. Obviously, I think this ride would be better if it had more practical effects going for it instead of just the screens and some practical effects. But fortunately, the queue does check a lot of those boxes, and the queue is one of the best on property as well. So the interactivity plus the competitiveness plus the queue makes this one of the best rides at Hollywood Studios. All right, guys, that brings us to our top 3. And honestly, you could make a case for any of these 3, and I would agree. All 3 of these rides, I think, are fantastic attractions. And just like Disney's Animal Kingdom, I think all 3 of these attractions could headline any Disney park. But they still have to be ranked. So coming in at number 3, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. The only criticism I can even think of or agree with when it comes to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is the fact that it replaced Great Movie Ride. That is a bummer. I don't know why, when we have the blessing of size, especially at a park like Hollywood Studios that has a lot of extra room, why we are replacing older rides when they can both exist. But taking that out of account, because I do think Great Movie Ride's days were numbered, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is a fantastic replacement. The queue from the Chinese theater all the way up to the pre-show is amazing. The pre-show, The Perfect Picnic, is one of the best pre-shows on property. The gags and the effects leading all the way up to the ride, the gags and the effects throughout the ride, the new 2.5D technology, everything about Mickey and Minnie's is great. I'm a huge fan of dark rides, and I think every single Disney park needs multiple dark rides. Mickey and Minnie's takes that to a whole new level. It's a fantastic ride for the whole family. Adults are going to love it. Kids are going to love it. There's not a whole lot bad you can say about it. This is a great ride and was a perfect addition to Disney's Hollywood Studios. Coming in at number 2, Tower of Terror. Personally, I might put this one number 1 if we're being objective, because Tower of Terror brings you the history and the nostalgia with the ties that it has to the Walt Disney Company in general. It brings you that eeriness and that creepiness that most attractions outside of part of the Haunted Mansion do not give you at any Disney park. It's made for adults, which is so rare to Disney Park, and I think that's a huge addition for it. Unfortunately, the only con it does have is because it's more geared towards adults, a lot of kids cannot ride this ride, and so that bumps it down a little bit in my book. But personally, Tower of Terror is one of my favorite rides. It gives you so much between thrill, between dark ride scenes, between the facade outside being absolutely beautiful. Tower of Terror is one of the best attractions on all of Walt Disney World property. That brings us to number 1, the best attraction at Hollywood Studios, and probably one of the best attractions at Walt Disney World, Rise of the Resistance. There isn't a whole lot that needs to be said. If you're watching this video, you've probably already been on this ride or seen a video of it 10 different times. Rise of the Resistance is incredible. It's fun for the whole family. It gives you a little bit of thrill. Even if you don't care about Star Wars, it's still immersive. Incredibly impressive effects and animatronics. One of the best pre-shows in the entire world. Rise of the Resistance is about as good as it gets. I don't think it has the same rewritability as Tower of Terror does, but on its own, objectively, Rise of the Resistance is the best attraction at Disney's Hollywood Studios. All right, that is my list. You guys let me know down in the comments what you agree and disagree with. Rank all 13 attractions, or if you just want to rank the rides besides the shows, you can rank those down below as well. Let me know where you agree and where you disagree. If you want to join the convo more, you can follow me on Twitter at Ranking the Mouse, or follow me on Instagram at Ranking the Mouse there as well. We can have a great debate about what's the best and what's the worst at Hollywood Studios. You guys can also hit that subscribe button down below to help support my channel. And until next time, peace.